Yo people, we back. What's good? I'm back. I know, long hiatus. Got fireworks going off in the back. But yeah man, we're back. Been away a long time. I know. Been working 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. You know how that goes, man. Not much time for yourself. Not much time to do content, to record, to edit. But we're back as I promised. Today we're looking at a much requested video on the Rhyad channel. A man called Rhyad. It's a 3-year-old video. 399,000 views, and the video is titled "Why Islam is the Truth." So we're gonna give it a watch, see what we think. It's a 20-minute video, so I'll probably do it in 2 parts. So part 1, this one will be about 10 minutes, be a 10-minute video, and then we'll do the other 10 minutes in the second video. So like, comment, subscribe, share, let me know what you think, give me your opinions as always, and yeah, let's get into it.
يا نفس إن لم تظفري لا تجزعي
Consider this beautiful painting of nature. If I told you that some ink randomly fell onto the paper and made it by chance, how crazy would you think I was? You would instantly deny this and tell me that a painter designed it. If something like a painting must have a designer, how about something far more complex like the universe? Just like the painter used different colours and techniques to draw the painting, the universe is also finely tuned to perfection by many fundamentals. If the painter made a small mistake, it would ruin the painting. Similarly, if the fine-tuning of the universe were to change even by the smallest amount, it would no longer exist. Just like it is almost impossible to accidentally produce this painting, the odds are almost infinitely more impossible for the universe to accidentally come into existence. Allah challenges our intellect in a profound verse in the Qu'ran. He says, "Were they created by nothing, or were they the creators of themselves, or were they the creators of the heavens and the earth? Rather, they are not certain." Firstly, Allah asks, were they created by nothing? If you think about it, you will quickly realize that this is impossible, as you cannot create something from nothing. Now apply this logic to the universe as a whole. Then Allah asks, were they the creators of themselves? For you to create yourself, you have to already exist before you were born to create yourself, which is also impossible. Now apply this same logic to the universe. Since the universe has a beginning, it could not have created itself. Finally, Allah concludes by saying, or were they the creators of the heavens and the earth? 2 points. Firstly, the universe existed billions of years before us, and to create something that existed before we were even born is impossible. Secondly, the universe is far, far greater than us.
If we're truly spirit and not physical, then that's not impossible, because our physical bodies only existed for the time we were on earth, and our spiritual bodies. But I get his point, and I agree so far.
Look at the most impressive human inventions and you'll find that they're nothing compared to even a fly. Human creation is always prone to mistakes and needs teams of maintenance and support in case of breakages or errors. If something as trivial as software needs maintenance, who then is maintaining the universe? From this verse alone, Allah shows us that we could not have come from nothing, we could not have created ourselves, and we cannot create anything as incredible as the universe. So how then do we think we are intelligent enough to deny the existence of a creator? Okay, you might now be thinking, if God created the universe, who created God? Firstly, to say that God has a beginning or is created, by definition means this being can no longer be a God. But for argument's sake, let's say that the universe was created by something that is created. The next logical question is, what created that thing? And you can ask that question again and again, an infinite amount of times, and the only way to break this chain is to say that creation was created by an uncreated creator. Secondly, time is a property of the universe. Since the universe has a beginning, we use time to describe what happened from that point. Since Allah is the creator of the universe and time, it does not mean He is restricted by these laws. Hopefully, we should arrive at the rational conclusion that the universe is created and maintained by an uncreated creator.
Let's pause there. So that's really interesting, to be fair. And I've actually, so as you all know, I'm a big student of the Ra material, the Law of One, which I have, where is it? On my shelf here. You guys, you know I go by this a lot. Yeah, the Ra material, I was actually reading about cosmology in the Ra material the other day and a bit today as well, actually. And yeah, it all kind of lines up with what the Quran teaches about God and the creation of the universe. The Ra material explain it through a slightly different way. They say that in the beginning was infinity. So if you imagine infinity as just a huge space, like a huge, it's just existence, just blackness, it's just something that exists. And then if we see God as infinity, then infinity, what they say is that infinity wanted to explore its awareness. So God the creator wanted to explore its awareness. So through its will, through God's want and need to explore its awareness, intelligent energy was created or was used. From that will, intelligent energy was put into action, and that's what created the universe, and that's what created our universe. So yeah, it's the same thing. You know, God is the creator, but I guess from the Ra material, God is the creation. Not the creation, God is the creator, but is also God is also God. God is also part of the creation. The creation that we experience is from the will of the creator to explore its own awareness and existence. So yeah, it lines up with the Quran, but I know in the Quran, not in the Quran, I shouldn't say in the Quran, because I've realized a lot of stuff in the Quran that we attribute to the Quran is actually the interpretations of the Quranic text from certain scholars of the time. But the scholars of the Quran would say that God is not part of the creation, because there's certain bits of the Quran that say He is above the creation. But that's where it kind of misaligns with the Ra material. The Ra material says, although God is the creator, God is also the creator because God is imbued within all creation. In exploring God's own awareness, the creative infinite intelligence and infinite energy created the universe, which means that God is a part of it and is the creator of it at the same time. I'll show you the quote from the Ra material. So yeah, they say, the first thing known in creation is infinity. The infinity is creation. Then the infinity became aware. This was the next step. Then God's awareness, so this infinity, God creator, the awareness led to the focus of infinity into infinite energy, This has been called by various sound complexes, the most common to us being logos or love. So in the Bible, when they're talking about logos, and Christians have interpreted as love, as the word or Jesus, this is not what it means at all. The Ra civilization tell us that the word logos is actually talking about the focusing of infinite energy. So they say the creator is the focusing of infinity as an aware or conscious principle, called by us as closely as we can to relate to your understanding or learning as intelligent infinity. So yeah, they say the universe was created through intelligent infinity, through the creator's awareness creating infinite energy, which became the power source of the universe, the light, and then the focusing by the creator of that infinity, of that infinite energy, into what they called intelligent infinity, which created the universes and the dimensions and etc. So yeah, yeah, very interesting, very good. Yeah, I like it because, you know, the Quran, the Bible as well, it's like a lot of it was put together so that we'd explore it more and then find out not a deeper meaning, but we'd kind of imbue meaning on it as our intelligence grows. I think that's kind of one of the beauties of like a lot of the holy texts. The more your intelligence grows, the more you will understand the text, because it's way advanced of what any surface meaning would come to tell you. So let's continue.
Generally, there's one person in charge. There's one captain of a ship and one king of a country. Imagine you're driving a car and both you and the person next to you have a steering wheel. Either you agree which way to turn, which shows you are both dependent on each other, or you try and turn left and the other tries turning right, and one of you overpowers the other. Now apply this logic to God. If there was more than one God, then these gods cannot be all-powerful for the same reasons, and a God that is not all-powerful, by definition, cannot be a God. Just imagine if there were two kings running a country. There would be chaos, and amazingly, Allah directly addresses this in the Quran. He says, had there been other gods besides Allah, they both would have been destroyed. In Islam, one of Allah's names is Al-Qahhar, the one that overpowers. He doesn't answer to anything or anyone, and his will is imposing. The biggest proof that there is only one God is the fact that there is balance in the universe. The laws of physics are consistent. The sky is always blue, and gravity is always the same.
Sky is not always blue, and gravity is not always the same, but I get it. He's talking in reference to the planet, to Earth's gravity, not other planets' gravity, I guess. I mean, you could say the gravitational constant is the same, but the gravity on each planet is different. But then, does that make gravity the same? I get his point, though.
At this point, you might believe in God, but have a problem following organized religion. I mean, why should you be restricted to a specific way of life, right? But if you really think about it, you already are living your life in a specific way according to the laws of your country. Imagine if your country had no law. Life would be terrifying and everyone would be so lost. This shows us that we need direction. Not only that, but every country has slightly different laws that are constantly changing over time, which also shows us that we as humans cannot decide what is 100% right or wrong. So if we need direction, but cannot decide what is objectively right or wrong, we have a problem. Where do we get the right direction from? Imagine if I gave you a car and you'd never seen one before. Guessing what to put in the fuel tank and what buttons to press is not good enough, but referring to the instruction manual provided by the manufacturer, we will know exactly how to drive the car. In the exact same way, if I want to know why am I here, where am I going, what is my purpose, I must refer to the revelation provided by the Creator. How? The answer is the Qu'ran. We've all heard about Moses splitting the sea and Jesus being born a miraculous birth, but these miracles are all limited to the time and place in which they happen. The Qu'ran, on the other hand, is a special miracle that was given to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and is not limited to time or place. It is a miracle that me and you can pick up, study, and experience anywhere, anytime. You can never prove that the splitting of the sea actually took place, but the Quran can be proved to be from God, like no other speech, and this can be shown in so many ways. For example, Allah predicted its preservation from the beginning. More than 1,400 years have passed, and the Quran remains in its original language completely unchanged. Since Muslims claim the Quran is the direct word of God, any changes, even if it was a single letter, would instantly falsify this claim. Allah challenges the reader to look for contradictions if they think the Quran is man-made. What we find is that the message is 100% consistent with absolutely no contradictions. Allah also told us that He would make millions of people around the world have the Quran stored in memory. Every single generation since the Quran was revealed has had memorizers, making it the only book in history to have passed down in both human memory and written form. If all books were to just disappear, the only one that would be back in a day is the Quran. Amazingly, Allah told us that when people listen to the Quran being recited, they are impacted and you see them start to cry. Thanks to YouTube, we can see this happening with our own eyes. You see people who aren't even Muslim and don't even understand the language breaking down into tears. Even those who recite occasionally cry. What other speech can do this? Linguistically speaking, the Quran remains the best Arabic literature to date. Since Arabic is arguably the most eloquent language to ever exist, this makes the Quran the most eloquent speech in the most eloquent language in history. The language of the Quran alone is enough to prove that it could not have come from man. To add to this, the Quran is also jam-packed full of scientific and historical accuracies that were impossible to have been known 14 centuries ago. From the Big Bang to the expansion of the universe and to every living thing being made from water. From the two seas that meet but don't mix to the accurate description of the human embryo. In fact, there are more than 1,000 scientific verses in the book, and not a single one of them can be disproved by established science. For those who are spiritual, it magnifies our spirituality. For those who are intellectual, it challenges our rationality. And the Quran, by far, is the most popular book in the world that is read billions of times every single day, week in, week out, all year round. For these reasons, Muslims can proudly claim that the Quran is self-evident to be entirely from God. If you are still skeptical, pick up a Quran and read it for yourself.
I mean, all that being said, I agree, the Quran is probably unchanged. Some people challenge that, they say there were changes, but for the most part people agree that it was unchanged. I think the problem with the Quran comes with the interpretations of it. You have like the Quranists who don't believe in the hadith, they believe the hadiths that were attributed to Muhammad and the disciples or the followers, they believe that a lot of them were fabricated. You have the interpretation of some verses which seem to be interpreted without maybe a spiritual knowledge and more of an understanding of the politics and the situation at the time, which obviously would be needed. It's probably, the Quran was probably delivered so that it gives a double meaning. But then obviously if you believe in only the Salaf interpretation of the Quran, then you might be missing out on certain interpretations, which, you know, people like the Druze and groups like that, you know, they see the Quran as a holy book, but they don't call themselves Muslims because the interpretations of the text they kind of read and they interpret differently. So yeah, cool. Let's keep going.
Imagine an African child that lived 12 years in poverty and then died of starvation. Now compare this boy to a 70-year-old drug dealer that had all the money, all the cars and everything he wanted, and then he also died of old age. One lived a short, miserable and difficult life, and the other lived in luxury whilst causing harm to society. Now, they are simply a collection of bones 6 feet under the ground. If there was no life after death, how unfair and depressing would that be? The world is full of injustice. People get away with so much evil, and innocents get blamed for things they didn't do. Simply just believing in the Day of Judgment is belief in ultimate justice and accountability. It breathes hope and optimism into every struggling heart. In Islam, the events of the afterlife are described in such graphic detail. No other religion describes it with such conviction, and Allah calls the Day of Judgment in the Quran the ultimate reality. Muslims live to do good in preparation for death. Isn't this a powerful motivator?
Alright, let's pause there. 13 minutes into it. Still another 7 minutes to go, 6-7 minutes to go. But yeah, no, really interesting so far. I mean, all of these things I knew from the Quran already, but it's good. It's a good little summary video. You know, I can see why a lot of maybe non-Muslims may watch this, and it may spark their interest in the Quran, and they may want to read more. You know, I'm someone who's, as you know from this channel, I've read a lot of the Quran so far. We've interpreted and we've looked at the interpretations of a lot of the verses and understood the verses. So it's been great, really eye-opening. So yeah, another question I wanted to know though, because I was researching it, and it doesn't explicitly deny living more than one life in the Quran. It speaks of the Day of Judgment, but just a question for those in the comments: do you think the Day of Judgment could ever be after multiple lives? Because like you said in that video, imagine you're a 12-year-old child in Africa, grew up in poverty, you die of starvation at the age of 12. Will that be the only criteria that you're judged on? Because if you go back to like the ancient Mayan civilization, for example, they used to talk about, you know, the world. They had a calendar that would end in 2012. Now, in the West, they wrongly interpreted that as that being the end of the world. The Mayans were predicting the end of the world in 2012. And then they all had a big laugh about it. Oh, silly Mayans, it didn't end in 2012. That was never what they were predicted. The Mayans were highly intelligent people who studied astronomy, astrology, the equinoxes, the rotations and the precessions of the Earth. And what they actually knew is that the Earth would enter a new phase in its galactic journey, where at the point of 2012, the old ways would end, and the old levels of consciousness and the state of the Earth would enter into a new phase as it enters a new place in the galaxy in its rotational journey. And this is what they're referring to. They're referring to the end of an old time in 2012 and the entrance into a new time. And if we look at it, we can kind of see that since 2012, the world has changed a lot. The consciousness levels of the people has gone a lot. More people are now exploring their spirituality. Even science, that was up until 2012 pushing atheism on us all. Now even their experiments, the double slit experiment, string theory, dark matter, is all pushing towards the fact that there must be an all-encompassing, united, singular force, which you would call God, which you would say is God. So yeah, what I was saying was, is it maybe that when God talks about judgment day in the Quran, is that after multiple lives? I know in the Quran there's a verse where it says they will ask God, Allah, to go back, and they won't be able to. There will be like a gate, or there will be a fence. They won't be able to go back and do any good deeds on the earth. But I wonder, is it a possibility that is after multiple lives? So imagine you're that small African child, lives in poverty, dies at like age 12 of starvation, and then maybe you come back, maybe you're someone else. Maybe you're a kid in America, in Texas, rich kid, got everything he wants, grows up to be, an old man, has a family, and you live several lives up until the day of judgment, up until the end time of a certain cycle, and that's when judgment is. Or you think, I know the Quran does say you wait in the grave until then. And I know most Muslims are going to say, no, it's one life and then you wait in the grave until judgment. But does the Quran explicitly say you won't? I don't know. Good subject to tackle. Let me know what you think in the comments. I know a lot of you are going to say, no, it's one life, but just give me your opinions. But yeah, that's part 1. Tune in again for part 2. Good to be back. Hope you liked. Comment, subscribe, share. Peace.